Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, and today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name of Jordan Rawlins. I'm excited for today because in this interview, you're going to hear Jordan break down his field in orthopedics, more namely sports medicine. We talk to a lot of people that are looking to get into the industry, transition from different roles, really looking for their place. And sports medicine comes up often. And it's nice to have a guest that's going to really shed some light on what that actually means. But that is for the interview, and you're going to have to wait for that. One thing I do want to mention right now, though, is the fact that it's International Men's Day. Now, I'm willing to gamble that a lion's share of you out there listening have never heard of International Men's Day. But yes, there is an International Men's Day. It's Global Awareness Day for the many issues that men face. And it revolves around 6 pillars. And I'm going to go ahead and share them with you. To promote positive male role models, to celebrate men's positive contributions to society, community, family, marriage, childcare, and the environment, to focus on men's health and well-being, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual, to highlight discrimination against men in the areas of social services, social attitudes, expectations, and law, to improve gender relations and promote gender equality, to create a safer, better world where people can be safe and grow to reach their full potential. I learned about this recently, and I love the fact that there's an International Men's Day. It's something I'm absolutely going to celebrate, and I encourage you to do the same. So in the spirit of International Men's Day, look to your fellow man in all of your circles and give just a few words of encouragement. Maybe they're working on a project. Maybe you saw them do something nice. Maybe there's nothing going on at all, but I would like you to give them just a few words of encouragement. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing things differently in the medical sales space. And I really do hope you enjoyed this episode of the Medical Sales Podcast and truly enjoy this interview. Hey, Jordan, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you, Samuel?
No complaints. I'm doing fantastic. So why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Jordan Rawlins. I'm currently the regional sales manager for CONMED Orthopedics. What I do is I'm in charge of talent for our teams, structure and stability to go out and get our goals and to drive revenue and growth for the orthopedic portfolio for the CONMED division.
Let's talk about a professional answer. Listen to that one. That was good. Okay. So Jordan, orthopedics it's pretty, there's a lot going on. And I think it's going to do our listenership a solid if you explain specifically what you do in orthopedics, and maybe you would speak more to your direct reports. What are they actually selling? Who are they calling on? What's going on?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, orthopedics is a very broad spectrum of product and call points. Ours specifically lives predominantly in sports med. So our orthopedic division is divided into, I would say, 4 main sectors. You have the sports med procedure specific products that are implants and instrumentation used in shoulders, knee applications, and usually those products are surgeon preferred. Surgeon specific. And then we have the sports med tissue and biologics that correlate to those same procedures. We're partnered with a company called MTF with phenomenal top of the line tissue product. Then we have powered instrumentation. So the drills that are used in these cases, and those kind of funnel over into large joint, so total joint space. Which is a capital selling product, and then we'll have disposable blades that go with those drills being used. And then we have arthroscopic capital, so visualization systems that are used in arthroscopic procedures. So to put it in 30,000 foot view terms, people that aren't in these cases, in arthroscopic procedures, you need a screen for the docs to see those cases on, to see the access windows that they're going into. And so we sell the video technology for that, and then the instrumentation that is correlated to those arthroscopic procedures. So those are the four main buckets that we play in. It's unique in a sense that I've never been a part of a company that has such a broad portfolio of product. There are so many products for reps to chase in and out of their accounts and within their surgeon contacts, it can be a catch-22. It's a heck of a lot of opportunity, but it takes a lot of planning and defined approaches to go out there and make an impact. You can get kind of caught in that space where you're really good at a lot of stuff, but you're not great at anything. Condensing the focus and really knowing your pockets of your region and where your opportunity is how people succeed in our division.
Absolutely. Tell us what the team makeup looks like.
Yeah. So our team, I have 8 full line reps. So basically each team is kind of an umbrella where they'll have a regional manager, like myself, and then you'll have reps that carry the full line, the full bag. And then usually underneath each rep, there may be a few territory associates. So if the rep is very experienced or has a large territory, some of these sports med cases take so much time and energy, and they take a lot of dependence of having somebody in and servicing those cases. So that's where it makes sense to drop in TAs in certain territories. And then we also have something that we just implemented over probably the last 18 months called a capital specialist. And that's really to go out and sell our power instruments. Like that part of our business is growing so fast. There's so much opportunity there. The hard part of all that is sports med takes a lot of time, right? It takes a lot of energy. And these capital conversions that you're going in and you're trying to convert, having somebody that's specifically dialed in that segment of the business helps tremendously. So you'll see some pockets where it makes sense to have a capital specialist as well. My team in specific covers kind of that tri-state region around Pennsylvania, New Jersey, predominantly outside Philadelphia, where we have 8 full line reps, we have 2 TAs, and then we have a capital specialist.
What is the role? And give us the 30,000 foot view. What is the role of one of your direct reports, a full line rep, and then how does that role compare to the role of the TA?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that it's probably answered differently depending on the leader. How we want that to look and where it's at might be 2 different things now. But for the most part, how that looks, a full line rep, what that looks like is you're running your own franchise. I like to use that term here because it's a very independent role. You're doing your own contracts. You're working through your pricing. You're mastering all of your accounts and what they use, and looking at penetration reports to see opportunity on where we do have product, where we can get product into, managing those relationships, all over the board, from the scrub techs in the ORs to the surgeons to the C-level suite positions within the hospital. So you're really doing as a full line rep, you're running that business, that franchise, I like to call it, from A to Z. Now the TAs are on a micro scale what a full line rep looks like. We are transitioning them into becoming more business minded and getting into the business side of what we do a lot sooner. I think that makes them more valuable as somebody that can come off the bench and take over an open territory down the road. But they're really learning the science and learning the service end of it from the ground up, and working with some of our busier accounts that need more support, and learning procedures and learning our technology, learning our products in conjunction with working with their rep and myself to be mentored on what it takes to be a full line rep and learning the business side of what we do.
Got it. And with a capital specialist, is it an aspiration for a full line rep to be a capital specialist, or is it a lateral position when you compare the two and they just work together?
Yeah, it's a really good question as well. And again, it will be customized based on the region and what those needs are. That's a lateral position. So really the way we look at it, and the way I orchestrate it is for that to work, there needs to be dual accountability. What I mean by that is if we have a power number, if we have a capital number that we're going after in a certain territory, anyone that's dealing with that product segment needs to have that in their number. For, it needs to have that dual accountability where my quota has that same power number in it as my counterpart does it. So they work as a in tune, as a partnership, as a level ground. It's just that the capital person will have a little bit bigger of a geography. So our capital rep actually covers 4 full line rep geographies. And so she will handle all the power in those because she doesn't have the full bag. So because of that condensed focus, we're allowed to, it gives us the ability to allocate her to further geography and work on some of these bigger deals in conjunction with the full line reps who have a more condensed geography, but a more broad focus as far as products.
Got it. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's get a little bit into what it means to perform in these roles. Let's start with the full line rep. Give us 3 things that you believe a full line rep needs to be able to bring to that position.
Yeah, again, these are all good questions. I think they're valuable. I think number 1 is confidence. And what I mean by that is, you have to be confident with your product to have success in this space. If you're not confident, you will be exposed really quickly in the OR, in those situations. You have surgeons that are going to depend on you for product knowledge. They're going to expect you to become a part of their team. So have confidence in who you are and what you do. 2, I would say you have to be organized. And what I mean by that is, how you plan your days and what you do with your time is so important to your success. I mean, our days change all the time, and our focuses can go from one thing to another. You have to have a mapped out plan, and you have to have a plan of attack in order to accomplish the goals that are needed at the level that they're going to be expected, right?
Right.
And I think the last thing is something that I always look for is be passionate about what you do. And there's a lot of reps out there, and it's a flooded market space. And the reps in my eyes, the ones that stand out the most are the ones that really, it comes off as genuine passion for what they're doing and what they're accomplishing with their accounts. And I think the ones that are doing that stand out and really lead at the top of the pack, no doubt.
Love it. Confidence, organization, and passion. And that makes an exemplary full line rep. What about the TA? What do they need to bring?
Yeah, I think all 3 things, right? But those 3 things mirror, because when I look at a TA, Samuel, I'm not looking for a TA. I'm looking for a full line rep down the road, right? That just might not have the experience or might be a little bit green. So I think a lot of companies, they look for different, patterns and characteristics. But what are we trying to do? Our TAs, we're trying to bring people in to build those pipelines of talent up and to mentor them through to get a way for growth within. I think organizations that look at that are going to be successful for a really long time. So I don't differ for what I look in characteristic wise in a TA versus a full line rep. The age, experience, that might differ a little bit, but what you're made of, what you embody, and the values you present in the interview process, those shouldn't change, right? And I think that's an important difference in organizations that have a successful culture where people grow from within versus ones that have people that bounce around from that TA position to, if you're not doing that, I always say you're training TAs to go against you and work for your competitors.
Okay. On that note, what are some of the pitfalls then that not TAs, full line reps should be mindful of?
Is as far as where you cannot have success, or
as far as making sure you're getting in front of the things that can really set you up for failure. what do they need to make sure they're always getting in front of when they go out and do their work?
Something that I'm obviously passionate about as a leader is having a proactive mindset, right? And when you look at your business, I'm big on business planning. It's kind of like if people would say, what is Jordan's chemical makeup as a leader? What do you think the most important thing is? And I think most of my reps would say, the business planning aspect of it, because it really is that important. And it's knowing your customers and knowing your accounts, every in and out in every single way. So, and what I mean by that is, any product that we can deliver on a ComMed orthopedic standpoint, you better know what each account is using for that category and why, right? And if you don't know that, it's going to be hard for you to be consistent and to be sustainable in this business. And we are in a high growth atmosphere at ComMed. We expect double-digit growth each and every year, and you have to be on top of that part. I mean, it's one thing to know the product knowledge. It's one thing to have the relationships, but I have seen a lot of talent out there that has really good relationships, has unbelievable product knowledge. They could probably walk circles around me in product knowledge, or has enough product knowledge where they could battle any surgeon on most topics, but they fail in that business planning aspect and how they're going to present their business and how they're going to make that a consistent and sustainable business over a long period of time. And as a leader, it's something I'm so passionate about, because I want to keep talent. And if you work for me, I want you to be here for a really long period of time, but I'm not a micromanager. And I expect you to kind of take ownership. If we're going to give you the flexibility and independence to run your own franchise, as I mentioned earlier, you better know how to plan, and you got to get good around that. And if you're not good at that, it's going to be hard for you to be consistent with your success with any organization.
I love that. No, I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it right there. In fact, let me ask you this. Would you say that with the influx of representatives and maybe newer companies like distributorships and other companies, that there's almost this lack of preparation around planning for a lot of newer sales reps in the field?
Yeah, yes. It's funny because the science is a big part about what, the science is a huge part about what we do. And any listeners, I don't want people to think I'm discounting that, right? You got to know your product. Certainly you got to understand the product. That goes without said, right? But understanding opportunity and learning how to plan your business is equally, if not more important, right? And so I think a lot of companies get that backwards, where it's tough. It's an interesting cycle, Samuel, because when there's an open territory, that usually means there's business, right? And if you don't have a rep there, most of people in my seat and above are stressed about missing that number because nobody's there, right? The reality is someone has to be there. And when you get somebody, I think the urgency is get them trained up on a product. Who are our top customers? Make sure that those top customers are okay. Get them trained on that product and just put them out there. We'll figure out the rest as we go. The reality is you lose that kind of honeymoon stage of just programming in the right habits. And I think when you don't take the time early on to mentor people coming into this business on the business planning side and understanding how to effectively strategically plan, you lose that window, because what happens? You sink them back in there with product knowledge. They get in there, they get, overly dependent on those same people that the prior rep was. And then they get in the cycle of, oh yeah, we'll figure that out as we go. And the cycle goes on and on. Absolutely. So I think if you have a program and you have a training focus right from the beginning, where you understand you understand the numbers, you understand what's expected of you, you understand where are we currently at, where do we need to be, and how are we going to get there, and you build those fundamentals out, you're going to be set up for success a lot more consistently than somebody who doesn't understand that from the beginning. And I've seen reps that have been a part of this business for 15, 20 years that still don't business plan the way they need to. And they've had a lot of stressful years, man. It grinds on you. And a lot of them aren't, if you look at their track record, they're not consistently hitting their numbers.
Right. No, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, that is exactly what the solution is to have that business planning. And to your point, I also agree that it's one of the most important things about running a business in any medical sales profession. The science, of course, has to be there. The clinical understanding has to be there. Understanding your customers has to be there. But if you cannot set a proper foundation for how you're going to operate the business and get new business
Yep.
and continue growing the previous business, nothing else will matter. And that's yeah.
It sounds simple, right? But look, we're all given a quota. And in our business, we have consumables, disposables, and we have capital, right? And you're given a number at the beginning of the year, and there's a base run rate going into that year, and then you have your quota, and then you have your gap between what your business is running at and where you're supposed to get there. So
right.
You got to break that down, and in anything I do in life, I break down big goals into micro goals. And absolutely. I think when you take the time to really look, I think a lot of reps at this time of year, they get this number and they're like, whoa, how this can't be right? I can't believe they put this growth on me. But, even for mental clarity, for you to perform your job at a higher level, business planning helps solve that too, because you're able to break a big number into micro goals. And all of a sudden, wait a second, this isn't that bad, right? My gap isn't as big as I thought it was. And if I get a little bit here, if I sprinkle in a little bit here, I don't need that big deal over here to get home. But I think I have to, and the panic sets in. So it allows you to kind of to control your space a little bit more and control how you're going to succeed during that year and manifest what you're going to go out and do. So it helps not only to be consistent and sustainable on a number standpoint, but I think in a mental standpoint, it helps you be more clear. And absolutely, that's another thing, going back to confidence and passion and energy that you have. If you're bottled up and trying to crunch numbers and trying to chase your accounts pick up on that, your customers, everyone around you picks up on that energy. And so anything you can do to, have that calm sense of being present and being proactive and, having that positive, confident sense of energy, I'm all for. And business planning also takes care of that.
Absolutely. Create the process, make it efficient, and execute. And you'll be able to bring your full self to the job every day. I love it. Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to take it back to before you learned all this invaluable information. I mean, from everything you've shared so far, Jordan, people that are working for you should consider themselves lucky because you're mentoring them on these absolutely important facts. But you also learned this from experience. So let's go back to college.
Yeah.
Did you want to be a regional manager at ConMed coming out of your senior year?
Oh man, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I know I wanted to make money, and I wanted to have fun, and I didn't want to sit in an office. So there you go. So that is medical device sales wrapped up in 3 lines. Kidding, obviously, but back in college, you could tell probably I have a lot of energy. I was a 2-sport college athlete. I played track and football. I needed to stay busy so I could, my mom would always say so I would stay out of trouble.
Right. Well, what did you do? What did you do in track?
I ran I was a sprinter. So I was the 100, 200, and 400.
Oh, I was a 400 runner too. What was your best time?
I ran a 48.7.
Wow. That's fast, man. You were.
Yeah.
So what position did you play in football?
So I was a running back, which is funny. You would never guess it now because I'm 175 soaking wet, but that's my natural weight, right? And if I didn't play college football, I probably would have been a 400, 800 meter guy.
Sure.
But because I had to bulk up, and I think my playing weight in college was like 202, 201.
Oh, wow.
I would never get down into 400 meter shape until like the last couple of weeks of the year.
Right. Wow. Okay. So you're a 2-time athlete.
Yeah.
Senior year.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
Yeah. Fast energy. And knew I wanted to get in business. I was a business major. But I love people. I energy feeds energy. I knew I wanted to be, out in the field, dealing with as many people as I could. So sales was always going to be a natural fit for me. And how I started my career was, go to the most demanding market of all time, New York City. And I had a mentor of mine tell me that if you could sell in downtown Manhattan, you can sell anywhere in the
Oh
world.
man, what
And
great advice. That's awesome.
yeah, and so that, and I can tell you this story that I'm talking about, I've used it in every interview process, going after, I mean, a lot of your life experiences define who you are as a person. And
Absolutely.
when I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, in rural Pennsylvania, I didn't have a lot of experience with New York City. A lot of it was just going to see the Christmas tree during the holidays. Other than that, not a lot of experience. So I threw myself into the mix, and I started with ADP, automatic data processing, selling payroll and
Yep.
tax services for
Yep.
small businesses. And my territory was a walking territory in Union Square, part of New York City. I rode the subways from the office to my territory, and I just literally knocked on doors and chased business.
Wow.
And I, you mentioned it earlier, and I'll let you know that's where I learned how to set micro goals and a business plan, because I had this territory, and here and there's nothing more overwhelming than a kid from Northeast Pennsylvania getting thrown into downtown Manhattan, having a walking territory where there's hundreds of accounts, thousands of accounts. Where do you go? And so I quickly formed a system with small business bankers at Chase Bank we partnered with. And there's something that they had a position called a small business relationship manager. And any new account, any new business in that area that would open up a bank account because they need payroll would go to this person. And so I formed partnerships with them. And then I had like one in each corner of my territory, and assigned them, like not formally, but on my own, micro goals. Like I took my quota and I was like, hey, I need this many accounts from this small business relationship manager. I need this from this many. And so that's how I broke up my number.
Wow.
And I would just, work smarter, not harder. And I'd
Yeah.
sit down and have coffee with them, once a week, and go over their leads and any new businesses through my travels that I would uncover and say, hey, have you checked out this person? They just opened up, or they're opening a new business, and we pass leads back and forth. And that's kind of how I had sustainable and consistent success with ADP. And I quickly learned how beneficial it is to plan, form strategic relationships, and kind of break down a big quota into micro goals.
Wow. Okay. So what was the introduction to medical sales?
Yeah. So then I realized, yeah, this is fun. I'm in the city, but I don't want to be in a city for long term. I got my experience, and you quickly start hearing about, hey, what have other ADP alum done, after ADP? And medical device sales was the buzzword, and get to Stryker. Stryker was the utopia for anybody. Like, if you could become a Stryker med device sales rep, you're that's the gold standard. So, like, interesting. I'll try to get there. And so, I think we talked about this before, but the pushback that I was getting was, hey, you're great, we like you, but you don't have experience. You don't have experience.
Our organization wasn't around back then, so we couldn't have even helped you, man. We couldn't have helped you.
I know. And so it's like, man, I'm hungry, I'm young, I'm energetic, I feel like I'm talented. I know I could, someone gives me this opportunity, I know I can crush it, but no one was giving me opportunity. The market was really tough then. It was right after the crash. Budgets were tight. And so I think the appetite for risk of bringing in somebody without experience was being told from the top, you can't do it. Sure. And I think a lot of people didn't have that mindset where talent is talent, man. Right. And I firmly believe, I don't care what your resume says, find a way to show them how your life experiences, like the things that Jordan Rawlins went through and the things that I do methodically in my, like, just find a way to relate that to show how it will parallel to how I can be a successful medical device sales reps, right? All I needed was an opportunity for somebody to see that. And Right Medical Technology was that company. So I actually, my dad and stepmom live out in Northeast Ohio, below Cleveland. And there was a role there for an orthopedic recon rep covering total joints and upper extremities and biologics. And I was in New York City, but I'm like, you know what? If I can get Cleveland Clinic on my resume and I can work in that market, and it was an underperforming market, and I've done it before. I don't have any relationships, but I believe in myself. And look, the one thing I'll tell you is I'll be consistent with what I did and what I ask of reps. When the first question you asked me, confidence, right? So there it is. I'm confident in myself. And so I said, I can go out and do this. I don't need relationships because I can make relationships, right? And so I don't have any bad habits. And they gave me the opportunity. Ed Evans and Jim Greer, those guys changed my life because they brought me into medical device sales. Amen. And they gave me the opportunity where they saw Jordan Rawlins for who he was. They saw the character that I had, and they took a risk on me. And the idea was that I could go train with some design surgeons first before I got into my territory. So it was supposed to be, I think, a 4 to 6 month program where I would float around, which is actually pretty cool for somebody that doesn't have the experience, where I could work with an experienced rep, work with a design surgeon, understand the products, understand the schematics of the OR. And Samuel, I'll tell you a side story. And I got hired to take on that program, and I had never been in a freaking hospital or OR setting in my life, right? And so they took a risk on me. I didn't even know, like, do I put on scrubs, the mat, the whole 9 yards, no clue. So the first place I got sent to was to spend some time with Jansen Cole was the rep, and Dr. Lowry Barnes in Little Rock, Arkansas. Phenomenal surgeon, really cool guy. He's wrote me recommendation letters that are in my portfolio to this day. And I remember going in the first day. Obviously, it's like 6 a.m. I'm like, man, get there early, set everything up. And before I go into the OR, I felt that same sense in your stomach before, like, a kickoff of a football game, like when it's about to kick off, right? Yeah, where you get those butterflies, and then skin breaks, bones, the saws start going, and you just get in your element. But I remember it like yesterday. But I didn't have any experience. I spent I think 3 weeks down in Little Rock, and then rolled out to Salt Lake City for another 2 to 3 weeks. I was picking up. I was avid about just reading as many articles as I could, asking all the right questions, preparing strategic questions for not just asking questions to ask questions, but really to understand what was happening, and playing with the sets after hours, and really trying to make sure I became a master of my craft, so to speak. And I excelled enough where I think after 6 weeks, I got sent back into Ohio to take on my own territory, and there I go. And so I sold total joints, upper extremity products, and biologics, and still wasn't at striker yet, but you're on your way.
But I want to backtrack. I want to backtrack a second though, because you spent some time at Novo Nordisk. So that's Pharma Life, or was it Pharma Life?
Yeah, it was kind of like me being young, and it was Biologic Pharma, which
Biologic Pharma,
insulin, insulin injectables. And it was my stepdad actually has been in pharmaceutical and biopharm for most of his career. And he knew I wanted to get in med device, and those terms were kind of like interchangeable at the time. Like, some people don't really like true med device at that time. I don't think I really knew, like, the hardcore med device of what we just spoke about, is what I was looking for. But I took a position with Novo Nordisk for a little bit, and quickly found, like, the things that it just wasn't for me. I think it's a great career path for many, but there's a fine line between, like, what we do now in orthopedics and what they do. And for me, it was, I want to be paid, and I want to be held accountable, uncapped for my own performance and what I do. And if it's for better or for worse, right? Absolutely. And that atmosphere just wasn't my cup of tea. And I quickly knew that about myself. I think self-awareness in everything you do in life is key. And I quickly knew, hey, you know what? This wasn't a fit. So that's when I got over to Wright Medical.
Got it. Okay. So Wright Medical, Boulder Surgical, and then the big leagues.
Yeah.
For the purposes of this episode, the big leagues being Stryker.
Yeah.
Walk us through. You left Wright Medical to go to Boulder because that would get you closer to Stryker, or you left Wright Medical to go to Boulder because of an opportunity, and somehow you ended up in Stryker. How did it happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a skipping stone to get where you need to be, right? You start looking at pockets of, different surgical products, different areas of expertise, and I quickly learned that capital selling not only makes you a lot of money, but it's a fun place to be in, right? It's high pressure. It's more how I'm wired. I think in total implants for joints, for me as a rep, it got a little monotonous of going in and out and doing the same hip, same knee every single day. And the room for expansion and business crafting and all that was a little bit less, because once you get a couple of heavy hitters for total joints, you're kind of that's where your time goes, right? And also, I quickly learned that the Stryker instrument guys aren't on call, right? they're not surgeon dependent, and so we when I'm doing total hips, there were a couple hip fractures where we're loading up for a family weekend, and you get a call, hey, so and so has an emergency hip going, and that's a different cup of tea as well. So. Yeah. So I knew I ultimately had Stryker instruments and Stryker surgical on my radar from doing the drills in those cases with Wright Medical. And I'll tell you, I was in Northeast Ohio at the time, right? And a recruiter called me and said, hey, Jordan, I got a Stryker, they said, it's the big one, man. It's a Stryker surgical position. I'm like, cool, that's awesome, man. Like, so when's the interview? And like, well, yeah, it's tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where's it at? Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. I'm like, okay. What time? 11 a.m. I'm like, and this is, 4 p.m. the day early. They're far along the process, and but I think you're a great fit, and I caught your resume, your experience, and it's let's try to get you in. I'm like, and they're like, how far of a drive is that for you? I'm like, oh, it's like 8.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
So my wife and I, we weren't married at the time, but we were engaged, and our goal was to get back, closer to the East Coast. And I said, well, babe, I got good news. I got an opportunity that could possibly get us back east. Bad news is I have to wake up about 2 a.m. and get there.
Wow.
So you talk about passion, right?
Yeah.
Something we talk about, go after what you want, man.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, Samuel, that got me the job. I mean, I'll never forget. I drove to that interview. I got there at 11 a.m. and Bill Verricchio, who he's now the VP of sales for the that Stryker Power division, and I remember him asking me, hey, like, did you drive? Like, did you drove here from Cleveland? And I'm like, yeah, I drove here.
Like, you got the job.
Yeah, that's commitment, but it's
wow.
Look, I mean, when you know what you want and you're hungry for it, you gotta show up, and you can't be afraid of going above and beyond. And I think that separates you, from the rest.
Fantastic.
So,
all right. So after Stryker, you went on to Biologic. Now you spent 6 years at Stryker, so that's a good chunk of time. What prompted the move to Biologic?
Yeah, it's network. So Biologic, so you build network in this industry. It's a small world, and I always tell people, you never burn a bridge. You use and value your network more than anything in your career, because you never know what opportunity might open up. And some people I knew at Stryker had went over to Biologic, and they were starting a new division in aesthetic lasers. They acquired Cynosure, and they were looking for people that were wired the correct way, and people that could bring the energy, the passion, and the motivation to build a culture within that new division. And I got acquainted through a prior network to go after an opportunity to take over a region as a regional leader. It was my, really first true leadership role where
Sure.
I was, taking on, that aspect of my career, and something that I ultimately wanted to get into. So it was a network that I trusted. It was a company that I believed in, just as much as I do as Stryker. And it was something that I wanted to do. And when those boxes are checked, never be scared to go after that. I think opportunity is everything in life, and loyalty is one thing. You want to make sure that you're being loyal with the companies and true to who you are, but never be afraid of knowing what your worth is and going after opportunity. So that's what brought me to Biologic. And it was a short stint. I know, and it took me ultimately and we can get into this, but into a different stratosphere that I never thought I would go into.
Well, share.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, the aesthetic space was unique. It's a different space. I think that some of us that that came over from Stryker to Biologic quickly found that it wasn't the best fit for what we do, and what we were talented at as leaders. Knowing that, and the reality in life, Samuel, is when you take risk and you put yourself out there, you're willing to take on more. It's funny how that works, right? And so, I left Stryker, and my plan in my head when I left Stryker was, man, I want to stay here for long term, and I didn't plan to leave, and the opportunity with Biologic comes up, and then that's not working out. My wife and I, we relocated down to the Southeast. We were outside Jacksonville, Florida, so we already moved. So we took on that risk, and our kids were not in school yet, and my cousin and his wife started a women's jewelry company about 15 years ago, based out in Laguna Beach, California. And I watched them start the company when I was a senior in college. I did an internship and lived with them for the summer in 2004 when they started the company. And I saw the blood, sweat, and tears and the passion that went behind that. And that moves me. That's how I'm wired. And to know what that takes, and to see passion involved in going after your goals and not being scared of that is really cool. And we kind of made a pact that, hey, if it ever got to the point one day where I could come in and help them drive the business and grow the business, that we were looking at opportunity. And timing is everything in life. And sure enough, when I kind of knew the aesthetic laser space wasn't for me, we were on a family trip with my cousin and his wife and their kids in Cabo, Mexico. And I don't know, it might have been, too many margaritas at the bar at the hotel that day, but it is what it is. But we always talk about, we always stayed in tune with how his business was doing and what would take them to the next level and what they needed. And we sat at the bar in Cabo, and we were going over some business planning and where I was at, and if I was happy and what I was looking for, and then we got into what they needed, and I helped him write a job description for a VP of sales, because they felt like, hey, they needed a VP of sales to take them to the next level.
Right.
By the end of that conversation, we looked at each other.
We found one.
And we said,
right.
Why don't you just do this, right? And so we, kind of left that trip with a lot of questions of, hey, look, this needs to strategically fit. I want to meet with the team. I want to make sure that I could bring value. And I think that's the number one thing that I look for in my career is, can I bring value? What are you guys trying to do? What do you need? And am I confident in myself? And do I feel like I could bring value to that proposition? Right. And I knew I could. And I look at this, and I genuinely mean it when I say it, that if you're successful in medical device sales, the chemical makeup of those people and the characteristics, I think those are the type of people that are going to predominantly be successful in anything they do in life. I firmly believe that. I believe that in myself. I mean, it's ultra independence. It's self-driven. It's being strategic, being
Right.
reliable, being hardworking, all the things that you need to be successful in anything you did in life. And I wanted to test that, right? I wanted to
Right.
see, hey, what I learned in all my experiences, can I go into foreign land and build a sales team and have success doing it? Do some of the things that I learned from my mentors and some of the things that I lived upon to that point, would they parallel into building a company elsewhere in a different space? And they did. We really had a lot of success, and
Awesome.
I did that for about 4 years through COVID. I can tell you, there's nothing more stressful than being responsible for sales during a global pandemic.
Only
and
imagine. Only imagine.
and that I learned so much, Samuel. Sometimes it's not about the companies you work for, or the space you're in, but more the experiences that you're a part of. And
Sure.
I say that because we go back to what kept me out of medical device sales for numerous years was people telling me I didn't have experience. And I could tell you that me stepping away and helping run my cousin's company on a sales aspect, or being responsible for running the sales, I learned so much from
Right.
him. I learned so much about myself that I didn't know, but I also knew how much I had to get better in certain areas with business planning. As good as I thought I was, you have to get better, and getting better at making tougher decisions faster because they impact the business the longer you delay them.
Right.
Just so many different things that being able to look on the inside of a company on a profitability standpoint and knowing why some of these top level decisions are made, and sometimes sales reps don't always understand that, but being on the other side of that, it makes me a stronger leader to come back and lead sales reps. So I learned so much during that process, but life happens. And, ultimately I can tell you, I'm wired for medical device sales. I think that's who I am. And I appreciate the time I had helping my cousin grow his company, and watching them have the success they have. And they're still, a tremendous success. They've opened over 40 retail stores across the country, and
Wow.
they
Wow.
I'm
Seriously.
guessing, going, well, I'll keep it confidential with what they're doing, but let's just say that they've grown 5 times fold over the last 4 years. So it's a tremendous success story, and to be a part of that and to help kind of shape that and scale out on a micro level of what they're doing is something I'll always hold true to my heart, near and dear to my heart, with
Absolutely.
whatever I do in my career. But it's made me a
Absolutely.
better person. And so my wife and I, we got pregnant with our third, and I can tell you, being that far away from family, and having a 7 and 9-year-old and a baby girl on the way. My wife is from Northeast Pennsylvania as well, and we felt like it was time to get back home. And the company that my cousin founded and Bill is based in California, and
Mm.
although we predominantly work remotely, we just felt like it was best interest for me to get back into back into the med device space. And if I wanted to move back, like it's a perfect story for us to kind of part ways and do our own thing. So
Got it.
that's what led me to ComEd.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, one question I have is, do they have a VP of sales?
Who, which
Your
company?
cousin's company.
Yeah. Oh, do they have another one?
Yeah. Did they replace you with a VP of
Yeah,
sales?
no. So they restructured some things. So it's
Okay.
funny because they kind of have a VP of retail now,
Okay.
which before, when I was there, we had wholesale, we had e-com, we had retail sales, all those funneled underneath me. And as we were growing, we needed a VP of e-com. So e-com went under out of my umbrella, but then wholesale and retail stayed underneath me. And then, as I transitioned out, retail became their sole
Their
focus. And,
focus. Yeah.
retail's more about, there's so much that goes into the retail organization of the brick and mortars and the layouts, and
Right.
the contract and lease agreements, where they have a VP of retail now. And so I don't think they officially have a VP of sales yet.
Okay. All right. Well, you did your part. All right. So,
Yeah.
this actually helps to segue into the next thing I want to get into just a little bit. Family and being a medical sales professional. There's a lot of
Yep.
assumptions around what it means And there's a lot of realities around what it means to be a medical sales professional and have a family, depending on which field you're in. Talk to us about the
Yeah.
orthopedic space. 2 kids, baby on the way. How have you, how has your family maybe supported you in being the leader you are? Or has it been a lot of compromise on your part for them to be patient with you to be the leader you are?
Yeah.
What's the dynamic there, and how have you been able to execute it?
Yeah, it's a tough dynamic. That's always an interesting dynamic. And for the record, baby girl is here. So we have, yeah. So we
Congratulations.
got, yeah, no. Well, she's been here for a while. So she'll be a year.
Okay.
So last year, she was born in April, right when I started with ComEd. So
Wow.
which is awesome. But anyway, the family dynamic is something that everyone has to be in on, in my opinion, right? It's a unique lifestyle where I've had so many friends and close acquaintances be envious of the lifestyle that we have, where we don't go to an office, right? I have a home office, but it took a lot of time for the family to know, hey, just because dad's home
Does
doesn't
not
mean
mean he's
dad's
available.
playing in the backyard. Yeah, like dad has to get
Right.
work done, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Right.
and then also there's the other time commitment where when we're trialing new products within hospital organizations, like basically see you in 2 weeks, babe. Because you're as a rep, you have to live it and
Right.
eat it and
Right.
just become a member of that team when you're trialing that product. That's how you are successful in these trials. And so that's very physically and time consuming, mentally demanding, where you're in the OR from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., depending on what you're trialing. And so there has to be that understanding there
Sure.
between the family. But it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And there are days I could tell you this, and all managers, cover your ears. But if you're doing things right, you should have the flexibility on some days where if you need to be home at 2:30, you could be home at 2:30, right?
Sure.
We've
Sure.
earned that right, and it's not every day. But
Right.
I did, like I said, I'm not a micromanager. But if you find a way for you to bake that in, and you can hit your numbers, we don't have a problem. But if you're not hitting your numbers and you're home at 2:30, we
It's
do
gonna
have
be
a
a
problem,
problem.
right? But
Right.
it is a pretty cool thing where you are around and you don't have a home office. And I think it's how you make of it and how you approach what you do with your time, right? And I made a commitment first to be a fantastic husband, and then to be the best father I can be to my kids. And I don't like missing anything, family wise. And so I've gotten really disciplined with time management and where I put what buckets I put my time and energy into. And really it's family, it's work, it's myself, like taking care of myself, working out and making sure that I'm doing everything I can to be at my best. And then rest, right? Sleep. You have to put that in. If I'm not getting my sleep, I'm
Yeah.
not good at anything. I'll be
Right.
the first one to admit to anyone on here. Catch me on lack of sleep, you don't want to be around me. But putting my time and energy into those buckets, right? And if you're going to take time out of those buckets, you better be making my life better, right? Or you better be bringing something of value that's going to make my life better,
Sure.
and stay really disciplined to that. And there's a balance there where the time I allot for work, I have to be really, really efficient with that time. And
Right.
what does that go back to? It goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time: business planning, strategic approach, proactive. Like, you have to be efficient with that. You have to be a master at how what you do with your time. And when you're going into cases, you're not just there for the case, but you have an agenda of what you need to do to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success on a business standpoint.
Yeah.
So then when you do have personal time, you're present and you're in those moments. You can put your phone down. You can decompress and really decompartmentalize the two. And I think the people that get out of whack with that aren't organized and they aren't disciplined with their time and efficient with their time, have a hard time balancing the work-life balance, because they get intertwined a lot. and you have to be very disciplined with what you do with your time and your approach.
Jordan, you nailed that one again. I was going to ask you what your life philosophy is, and I think you kind of spelled it out for us. It's being efficient with your time and managing that to the best of your abilities. And it sounds like if you can conquer that, it will spill over into every avenue of your life. And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and it's really, Samuel, it's not even medical device sales. I would say to be successful in anything, to be happy, to give your full effort. And my goal, and I'll tell you, it's still a constant. I don't have it perfect, and it's a constant fight. But I think in life you have to be able to admit that, and it's something that I always work for each and every day. You have to be able to fully give yourself to what's in front of you, right? And to be a top father, to be the father I want to be the husband I want to be, you have to be able to mentally and physically give yourself, 100% in that area. To be a top medical device sales rep, you can't be worried about what's happening at home or what's going on here or there. Like, you have to be focused in the moment. And, when you're in these cases, you have to, those teams are counting on you to be in the moment, to be present, to know what's going on at any given point. And I think if you get cloudy in those areas, it's hard to accomplish what you need to, and it's hard to be 100% present and excelling 100% at maximum level if you're not organizing your time and you're being efficient with it.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we're going to bring this to a close, and I'm going to give you a lightning round, and you're going to have a very short amount of time to answer 4 questions. How does that sound?
Okay.
All right, Jordan. Jordan, in the last 6 months, what is the best book you've read?
It's one I read every year. Okay. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Ooh, it's one book that I read every single year. Yep. And I just finished it again. And I would say that it's impactful enough that I read it once a year.
You've inspired me, man. I've read that book maybe 2 or 3 times, but I don't have a yearly address to that book. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, that book is so explicit in what you are supposed to do to manage your time wisely. And you've been talking about it this whole episode, so I'm definitely gonna try that.
Yeah. I gotta give props to Kevin Steed over at Stryker. He was on a neurospine ENT side, and he was the one who recommended that book.
and said to read it every year.
Yeah, well, not every year, but he told me to read it. I mean, he had a goal one year at he read a book once a month. That was one of his New Year's resolutions, and that was one of the books that he had recommended.
That's awesome. All right, what is the best TV show or movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
Ted Lasso, man.
I haven't seen it, but everybody keeps talking about this Ted Lasso.
Oh my God! If you want to laugh, cry, get motivated, and get a perspective in life, it's a brilliant series, and my wife and I absolutely adore it. It's great.
That's hilarious. All right, what is the best meal you've had in the last 6 months?
Oh man, good question. So I am a pure homemade Italian guy. So we just had homemade lasagna and homemade meatballs.
You made them?
Yeah, my wife and I do. I do the meatballs, and she did the lasagna. So awesome. It was a team effort.
I love it. And then last question, what is the best experience you've had in the last 6 months?
It has to be watching my boys form the relationship with their little sister. And it's a really powerful thing. And when you bring another human into the planet, I don't think there's anything, there's no higher, greater, better experience than that. But you think you can't love more than you do with the kids that you have. And then when you bring another one in and you watch those two and how much they love their little sister, and you watch her learning things from them and following them around already, it's a powerful thing. And if you need a little pep in your step or motivation to your why, and why I do what I do and why I push myself, it's for those 3 and to make sure that they continue that bond, and I'm leading by example.
That is awesome. Jordan, it was a pleasure spending time with you, and we're going to be looking out to see all the wonderful things you're about to be doing. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I love what you guys are doing. I firmly believe in your organization and you guys creating people and pathways for people that want to get into this industry, because it's so special. I owe everything to medical device sales and
Absolutely.
how it's formulated who I am as a person. And so the fact that you guys are built around doing that and providing avenues for people to experience it is a cool thing.
Thank you. Thanks, Jordan. And that was Jordan Rawlins, breaking down orthopedics, sports medicine. So I know for a fact a number of you have listened to this episode and thought to yourselves, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to do what Jordan Rawlins is doing. You already know what I'm going to say. Go to evolvesuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time, have a discussion with one of our account executives, and let's get you into a role. And for those of you that are listening that maybe it's not what Jordan's doing, but you know for certain you want to be in medical sales in some capacity, any field, or you want to be in the field, you have no idea which field to start in. Again, visit evolvesuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time, and have a discussion with one of our account executives. And let's see if the Medical Sales Career Builder program is going to be your next opportunity to get the position you've been dreaming about, thinking about, wishing about, and even trying about, but still don't have. The last thing I want to leave you all with, in the spirit of International Men's Day, men listening to this episode right now, I want to go back to these 6 pillars, okay? One of the pillars says to create a safer, better world where people can be safe and grow to reach their full potential. I already know some of you out there listening to this, and you've been listening to these episodes, and you know that whatever you're doing right now, as wonderful as it is, it's not where you feel you're supposed to be. And there's a level of untapped potential that is waiting for you in medical sales, and you still are you just haven't made the leap yet, or you haven't quite settled on the conviction to do it. You know what? That's okay. But I want you to use that feeling and act. And the only action I'm asking you to take is to visit evolvesuccess.com, fill out an application, schedule some time, and talk to one of our account executives and see if they can help you close the gap between where you currently are today and where you ultimately want to be. And for you women out there listening, in addition to sharing words of encouragement with your fellow men, I'm going to say the same thing to you. This industry, the medical sales space, it needs more women. It needs more diversity. There's a lot that it needs, to be honest with you, but that's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to invite you to take action. Men and women, take action. Stop wondering, stop wishing, stop hoping, and go to evolvesuccess.com, fill out an application, schedule some time, and let's get you to where you want to be. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing things differently in the medical sales space, and I really do hope you come back next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.